practice is supposed to be uncomfortable. Practice is supposed to be a struggle. If you're only practicing what you're good at, you're not really practicing, right? You're just doing what you're already good at. There's no empowerment. There's no skill acquisition when you're doing that, right? Practice is supposed to be uncomfortable.
Hello, Adam. Glad to be back with you today. And I think what we have to talk about today definitely needs to be acknowledged. You're seeing it, I'm seeing it. And, we need to get ahead of this because it definitely happens all the time to everybody. And how we respond makes all the difference. Are you with me?
I'm with you. I'm very excited about this topic because it's so important and so pertinent for this training season we're going through.
Yes, that's exactly right? We've discussed that we're in the training room season. Everybody's, pumped. We're going in, we're learning new skills, we're focused. Our plan is January, we're ahead of the pack. We're already on the playing field. We're already doing our thing. We're not waiting until January. But the truth is, things happen, right? The stuff happens. The stuff hits the fan. And how we respond when that happens makes all the difference. That is the predictor about whether or not we're going to make it to January in the shape we want to be in, right?
That's exactly right. It is not a question of if we're going to mess up or make a mistake or whatever you want to call it. It is only a question of how quickly we recover.
Yes. All right. So let's lead in with an analogy, right? We do talk about these things pretty often, but I think constantly kind of flipping the coin and looking at different perspectives of this is really helpful. So the analogy today is hiking, right? Which I'm kind of a nerd about. I really love it. I am very fortunate to live in a beautiful area that has access to tons of hiking. And there is a mountain within 10 minutes of my front door that I know very well, Adam. Like, I can't tell you, I've done countless trail runs, countless hikes with my kids, my dog, friends, family. I know the place like the back of my hand. And generally when I go there, it's good weather because I don't really like to hike when it's slippery. Definitely don't like to run when it's slippery.
Makes sense.
But there's a tricky time of year. It turns out it's the fall.
Right.
Hikers unite, you all know, right? I get up there and I will tell you what, I will have every good intention of having the most incredible trail run or the most incredible hike. I've got hours in front of me to do it. And it, without fail, every single year, I get lost. I get lost. And even though I know this place like the back of my hand, I panic. I totally panic and I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed the trail marker. I missed the trail. Where am I? All right. And I think this is such a great analogy for what we're talking about today because, right, like who hasn't done the holiday seasons? We all know what to expect. We've been talking about it for the past several weeks, right? Who doesn't know their routine? Everybody knows their routine. Everybody goes into every day, in my opinion, hopeful, right? Positive outlook, ready to do the thing. And inevitably, we get off the trail somewhere. It happens, right?
Yes. And
so,
yeah,
go ahead.
No, go. I mean, it is all about what we do when that branch hits us or we get knocked down or whatever analogy you want to use. It is all about that recovery.
Oh, man. Yeah. Tripping and falling. That's another good one, right? It's the panic. It's the emotions that set in. And I would say that's the point. All right. Like that's the fork in the road that most people get hung up at. And a lot of us take the wrong fork, right? So here's the deal. The goal is when this happens, so I looked this up. You can look this up, right? Google it if you want. What do you do when you get lost in the woods, right? And these rules for what you should do are so pertinent to what we need to be doing when we get lost on our journey to health and fitness. And we've got several other things that we can talk about as well. But I want to put these out there because I think it's really helpful.
Yes.
All right?
Tell me what to do if I get lost on the hike, Haley.
First of all, you're going to panic. No matter how well you think you know the area you're in, there is going to be a moment of fear, right? Let's acknowledge it. Let's normalize it. Heck yeah, super normal to feel panicked because, oh my gosh, I don't know where I am. All right.
I'm
Now, one of the rules, but go ahead.
so sorry if you're going to expand on that. I was going to just add to that, but go.
Yeah. No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I was just say sometimes when you can name it, you can tame it, right? And of course, it doesn't make it still feels panicky, but it makes it a little less intense. And when I talk about things like discomfort, like when you say when you have a name for it, oh, there's the discomfort Adam and Haley have been talking about. It just makes it a little easier to deal with it because you're expecting it.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And actually, one of the rules in in the list of what to do when you're lost in the woods is to be vocal. They actually recommend you talk to yourself. Do it. Talk to yourself out loud. I literally do this, right? When that panic sets in, I'm like, okay, like I'm okay. I'm not hurt, right? Like just this is panic. This is a normal reaction. It is recommended. They recommend it. They being the people who, watch out for us in the woods, recommend you talk to yourself. So I love that. Name it. Name what you're feeling. It's empowering, right? If you can name it, you can tame it. And that is another rule. Try to tame what you're feeling, right? They say stay calm. I'm not going to say that. That never works. Don't ever tell yourself stay calm. Right? It's like, relax.
Exactly.
Don't tell me to relax.
Exactly.
So, all right. So we're gonna expect when we get lost, when we veer off course, yeah, we're gonna have feelings about it. They might be fear, panic, all sorts of things, guys, right? Speak out loud to yourself. Acknowledge what you're feeling. Totally fine, right? Now, this next rule, Adam, I think is probably the most important rule because I would say most people fall in the camp of, oh, I've got to do something.
Yes.
Right? And it's usually one of two things, right? There is the rare breed that somehow miraculously finds their way out immediately. That's not me.
We'll call those the outliers.
Right? Like I generally have to take a beat and like figure out what I'm going to do next. Then there's the other breed that will just continue to venture off course. They're like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and explore these dark woods with no trails. Maybe I'll get lucky. No, we end up in a bog wrapped in thorn bushes and crows are starting to circle. Ravens have found us, right? Like, so the next rule is, guys, just stay put. Just stay right where you are, right? I have actually told some clients this recently, like they're kind of running into some of this, right? They're veering off course and I can see them wanting to kind of go off into the dark trees. And I'm like, no. Let's just stay right where we are a minute. Like we may not be able to make it better right away, but let's not make it worse. What do you think, Adam?
The snowball effect is so real and so powerful that even the smartest, most rational people can fall for it. And essentially you're taking one bad decision, and we all make bad decisions or bad choices, whatever you want to call it. I don't even like to call them bad. It's just life.
Yeah.
But whatever you want to call it, and then they turn it into more bad decisions because they feel so bad about that first one. And
right.
I like to think of it like the two arrows. Like the first arrow happened, it's all what we do about that second arrow. Are we going to let that second arrow kill us and go down this, veer off and fall off the cliff? Or stay put, catch your breath, evaluate, don't make any decisions, the old, don't fire off an email when you're upset, never quit on your worst day. Like that's actually very good advice.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's also, this is good permission too, because I think we feel compelled to take immediate action, right? Like I think there's part of us that says, well, you messed up, fix it now. And it's either quit or the outliers somehow, can turn that gray rainbow right around, So
right. You know why though, Haley?
Why?
It's really uncomfortable. It's just a very uncomfortable feeling. And as I get older, as my kids get older, there's just this discomfort that you have to deal with. And it's, as a parent, it's so tempting to want to remove that. as an adult, we want to remove it for ourselves. But sometimes the best thing we can do is just let ourselves sit with that discomfort, because you're going to wind up creating way more discomfort with the irrational decisions we wind up making. And something
Yes.
I've been practicing with myself is just sitting with that discomfort. It's just a feeling. And especially, we're not talking about life and death here, obviously, right? In hiking, it could be,
No.
sadly and
Yeah.
scarily. This is
Yeah.
just life. This is fitness. This is health. We're not talking about life or death here. And if we just learn to sit with that discomfort and don't make any decisions, we'd be so much better off than some of the stuff I've been hearing lately, right? And it's all the conversations or many of the conversations that I've been having lately, it's always after something bad happened, right? It's always, all right, well, this happened, I'm out. Or it's, do you do that when you make a great decision you're proud of? Of course not.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. It is hard to wait out the storm, right? Like, I hear you. And I would say it can often lead to, right? Like, okay, say you do wait out the storm. A lot of what I see too is people hiding, right? Like I'm seeing some of that pop up as well. They've messed up and now they're hiding out. They've gone off course and they found some hole to hang out in until I don't know what. And that's actually even worse than just staying put where you are, right? Like that's another rule actually, is to stay visible.
Yeah.
Which is also really hard, right? Like, hey, how you doing? I'm off the trail. That actually happened to me recently. I went, I started a big hike one morning before the sun came up, and I got off the trail within like the first 10 minutes. And I look down and I see two other people on the trail. Thank God I saw them, and thank God I stayed where I was when I realized I was off the trail. It was sort of embarrassing though, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I had a headlamp on. I'm doing just what they did. They were on the trail. I was off. How did that happen? I don't know.
Yep.
Right? But if I had gone and like hidden myself away, I would have never seen them. I would have never found the trail again. So staying visible is another part of that. And yeah, kind of embracing the fact it's going to be uncomfortable for a minute.
Yeah. The embarrassing part is interesting too, because, not to veer too off topic here, but my son is in this fantasy basketball league and he's, in this thing, and, people bid on players and they trade and whatever. And it's interesting to see what happens when someone makes a bad trade and what they do after that. And so often they let one bad trade turn into more bad trades. Because again, it just becomes this cascading effect where it's just like, it'd be far better off to just acknowledge, all right, you know what? I messed up. It was not a great trade. And that's it, versus trying to just dig yourself out of the hole. And human behavior is clearly fascinating to me, but we're so much better off just staying put, asking for help, and that's it. And you'd be far better off than the alternative.
Yeah. Well, I think some of that, Adam, I don't know about you, and I witnessed this in myself. And so, you spot it, you got it kind of thing.
For sure.
See it in others. But there's a part of us that wants to be right.
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm off the trail. I'm making my own trail.
No doubt. Yep.
And then there we are, caught in the bog, wrapped in thorns.
Yep. Totally.
So I think that's part of it as well. Well, okay. So I do want to acknowledge, there is a point where we do, maybe the sun comes up, maybe the storm clears and the panic has subsided. We've accepted our fate. Here we are, lost on the trail. It's time to take some action, because otherwise, we're never going to get out of there. So Here's some action points. They're super simple. People are going to roll their eyes at them. You're going to roll your eyes if you're tuning in. I don't care. This was on the websites. These were what the wood people told me.
But again, this is one of those things where it's common sense, but it's not common practice. And we've been at this for 17 plus years. We've seen this many, many times. So we're just trying to prevent that.
Right. Exactly.
Right,
Thank
tell
you.
me, talk to me.
Thanks for the back. Here, there. Follow the water or hydrate, right? When you are coming through the storm of whatever little mess you found yourself in, sucking down some water can be really life-changing. I know that sounds... Have you had that experience, Adam?
Yes. So my rule of thumb is, when I mess up, I'll just keep using that word. I keep saying mess up, whatever, but let's just say when I mess up, The first thing I usually do is it's all about the recovery meal or snack. What am I going to eat right away? What's that next thing? And for me, I usually go with carrots or celery. Easy,
Okay.
tasty, works, have it with some water. And it just helps me, right? We're always one good choice away from recovering. And sometimes it's that first choice it's that next choice that can be so hard. So just having some carrots or celery really helps me, feels good. And that's my go-to.
Yeah. I mean, it's something so simple, right? But like, you never regret like having a glass of water, right?
No.
And when it comes to like, getting lost in the woods and actually what that means, following the water,
Yeah.
right? Civilization is there. Life is there.
Yeah.
Life is at the bottom of a glass of water, right?
Right.
Like treat yourself with kindness.
That's a good
Right. And
that's a
so
good action item though, is, when you inevitably mess up, because we all do, drink a glass of water, have some vegetables, have a piece of fruit, whatever it is, but do that because it really will help you change how you feel. Remember, it's much easier to act your way into a new way of thinking or feeling than to think your way into a new way of acting, right? Drinking that glass of water, having some carrots or celery, whatever you want to do, it really helps you feel differently.
yeah, and it's simple. This
Yep.
is not a big leap.
No.
It's not a hard
No.
thing to do.
On the scale of discomfort, 0 being zero, very little discomfort, to 10 being most, I would say it's a 0 or a 1. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Agreed. Agreed. And that's the kind of thing we want when we're lost in
Yes.
the woods. We don't want to do any kind of Herculean efforts, right? The other action item, right, that they recommend is using landmarks, right? If you're going to try and find your way out of the woods, can you spot landmarks that take you back to the start? And for me, what this says is, where are your routine landmarks, right? Like maybe you have a walking routine or a breakfast routine or a wind down routine, right? Like use those landmarks in your routine to anchor you back to the start. So you remember, like, oh, I'm not just a crazy person lost in the woods,
Yep.
like, right? Like, no, I have a good life. It's okay. Sometimes we veer off course.
Yep.
But these landmarks still exist. They can bring me back, right? And I think it's pretty simple, right? Once we've subsided, the panic subsided, we've stayed in place, we've given ourselves a beat, maybe we've had a sip of our water out of our Nalgene. Okay, let me see what landmarks I can see. Let me remember the routine. And can I just anchor back in the simplicity of that?
I love that. So
Yeah.
powerful.
So the last thing on the list was speak up, right? And I mentioned this earlier. They want you talking to yourself, but we want you talking to us. We want you talking to your coach if you're on our program. And that, again, you're going to have to get over that embarrassment or perhaps shame or that desire to just be right, and let somebody know, hey, I veered off course here. I could use a little help. I'm not hiding from this. I'm trying not to make it any worse. I'm having some water and looking for landmark in my routines, but I need help. Speaking up is one of the recommendations if you get lost in the woods. So I think it's a perfect recommendation for what we do here. What do you think, Adam?
I love that. Yes. There will inevitably be fear, discomfort, doubt, resistance, FDR. What you do in those moments makes all the difference. Ask us, use us. We are here to help you. This is why we do what we do. And we love hearing from you because that means you're speaking up and we can work through it together. That is why success is inevitable with My Body Tutor, because you have us in your corner. Use us. And if you do,
Yes.
I promise you, we'll get through it together and you'll be stronger for having gotten through it.
Right. Like nobody would deny themselves the opportunity to holler at like, a forest ranger.
Right.
We're your forest ranger. Holler at us.
Right.
Right. Hopefully you have your emergency whistle and you're using it. We love the sound of an emergency whistle.
Yes. Yes. Put up the flares.
Yes, exactly. Well, and speaking of, Adam, I just want to say, hey, it's not going to be the last time you veer off course and you get lost in the woods. It isn't mine, right? And every time I've gone out, whether it's on a trail run or a hike, there's always something I come home and think, next time I should probably take this. So, right, we want to continue to learn forward from these things. Veering off course is not the end. It's a launch pad into better. And so the recommendations would be before you go out on that hike, well, first of all, tell somebody your plans, right? Like, again, if you're on the program, talk to your coach. What are your plans? And remember, this isn't like do or die. Like, oh, you better do it the way you said. And if you get lost, well, you're out. No.
Right.
Tell somebody where you're going. It's a safety measure, right? You got somebody on your team and wanting to make sure you're doing okay. And then the other thing is pack your essentials, right? Do you have everything you need? And we can only kind of learn that in hindsight through these mess ups. So we get better at those skills as we go along as well. You want to veer off the course because then you'll get better at preparing.
Bingo. And when you say essentials, it could be something as simple as bringing a snack with you if you're going to be out for the whole day and then you have a dinner and you want to, not go into dinner absolutely ravenous, right? Taking that edge off can make a big difference. It could be putting your workout clothes right by your bed so that when you wake up, there is very little friction to putting them on, right? Those are the types of little things that make a big difference. A few other thoughts I want to share. Number one, and I said this earlier, but I think it's worth repeating. It is not a question of if you're going to mess up, if you're going to fall off track. It is only a question of how quickly you recover. Use us. Again, if you do, I promise you success will be inevitable. Number two, every one of our success stories, and we have thousands of them, and it is the best thing in the world. Every one of them got comfortable being less than perfect, right? And ultimately, part of what we're talking about here is this ability and this skill to stick with it while being less than perfect. This ability, the skill to, instead of knocking down the whole tower, as many kids do when they're trying to build something, letting the tower be where it is and building back up, right? Not turning off the dial, but turning it down. Things like that, right? That mindset is so powerful. But every one of our success stories has gotten comfortable being less than perfect and sticking with it. A few other things. I'm coaching both of my son's basketball teams this year, 2nd and 5th grade. Wish me luck. But one of the hardest things to do with these kids is to help them recover after they make a mistake, after there's a turnover, after there's a missed shot. And I remind them, Steph Curry, who is the greatest shooter in the history of the NBA, could probably say in the history of the world, his career field goal percentage is, I think, right above 45%, right? So that means out of every 100 shots, he only makes 45. And he is the greatest shooter ever, right? He is missing 55 shots out of 100 shots. And he's the greatest shooter. I hammer this home with my kids, with my players on the team. You're going to miss. Do you sulk? Do you cry? Do you just, get out of the play? Of course not. You have to be able to recover, and that's what we work on. And then the last thing is, I think this helps also, is just this mindset of I messed up, right? And I think a lot of us approach this on a week-by-week journey. I would not recommend that. Some of us approach this on a day-by-day journey a little better. But the problem with any of those is if you mess up the day, then you say, screw it, I'll start fresh tomorrow. Or if you mess up the week, then screw it, I'll start fresh Monday. I'd much prefer a choice-by-choice journey, right? There's lots of choices we make every day, and there's lots of choices we make every week and a month. You're not going to throw a whole month away of decisions. Let's say you eat 5 times a day or whatever, that's 35 decisions a week. That's 140 decisions a month. You're not going to throw away the entire month for 1 or 2 bad decisions. Think of it as a choice-by-choice journey.
Those are all great reminders, really, really great reminders. And I think, so applicable in this training season, because part of training is veering off course, right? We never said training season was about being 100%.
No. And to go back to the basketball, as I remind my kids, practice is supposed to be uncomfortable. Practice is supposed to be a struggle. If you're only practicing what you're good at, you're not really practicing, right? You're just doing what you're already good at. There's no empowerment. There's no skill acquisition when you're doing that, right? Practice is supposed to be uncomfortable. This is the perfect time to do it. Use us. Let us help you work through it. Do not fall off the cliff. Do not burn down the bridge. Do not, don't do any of that, right? Let us help you. We're here for you. This is what we do.
That's right. Don't hide and be loud.
There you go.
All right, guys. Well, that's it. Hey, listen, if you find yourself lost in the woods and you have an experience of subsiding through the panic and then staying put and working your way out of it, let us know, right? Or if you're in the woods and you need some help, send us an email. We're always happy to speak with any of you, all right? Until next time, take good care and pack the essentials. See you soon.